That's crazy to think, though. Like, the Lakers won 5 titles, and their 2 best players were beefing, and then their star and their coach were beefing.
Yeah.
Pretty good team.
No, there were always
it's a testament to that. You know, you can have success in toxic work environments. It's possible.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Liu. I'm joined by co-host Alex Wong. You're listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. You can follow Hello Welcome wherever you listen to podcasts at Hello Welcome Pod. We have another special guest. We're in the factory again. Alex, we're stuck here, man.
We're here, man. We're posted up in Atlanta, just running a podcast marathon with some of the greats. You know, you would have heard our episode with Task Malice earlier this week, and today we're joined by another legend of the No Dunks crew, the great Trey Kerby. Trey, what's good, man?
I'm having a great time, man. Just a bunch of factory workers here putting on the hard hats, throwing on the Carhartts, and getting busy. The hard work of talking about basketball with your friends. It's tough.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was up till 3 a.m. last night preparing for this episode in particular. Yeah, 3 a.m. in Atlanta. You think we'd be doing something else other than preparing about podcast topics. But no, seriously, thank you once again for having us. Thanks for joining us as well. So the idea for today, we wanted to talk about NBA rivalries because the NBA has now kind of forced upon this NBA rivalry week. First off, is that hitting for you? Is it like you put in your calendar, you're like, Google, book off this week for rivalries?
Knicks, Nets.
Here's the problem. It does go into like our general no dunks calendar, right?
Okay,
like we're aware that rivalry week is on the calendar by looking at the key dates at the start of the NBA season. And then it gets to be Sunday night or Monday morning of rivalry week. And we're like, oh, yeah, it's rivalry week again.
Yes.
Not to mention, it's also hard to say.
Yeah.
Rivalry week. It always comes out like that. But no, it hasn't been hitting for me because I think the first year they launched it, the Bulls' rival was the Charlotte Hornets. And it was like the rivalry they were going for was Lonzo versus LaMelo.
Oh.
But it didn't really strike anybody as rivals. Okay. Then you throw in like one that happens regularly, I feel like, is Sixers versus Nuggets. Everybody wants to see Embiid versus Jokic. And it never happens. So those are like the two things that stick out to me are like made up rivalries and then ones that don't actually come to fruition. So I don't know. It feels like we got January. Let's put something new on the calendar. We'll try and brand it and have some teams play against each other.
Yeah, here are the matchups for you guys. Let me know if any of these from rivalry week this season was exciting for you. So Knicks versus Nets. A little New York rivalry.
Knicks and Nets give me high fives.
It was a close game, I think.
Okay. It was close. Like you mentioned, Sixers, Nuggets, Joel Embiid, DMP.
Once again, isn't that like 6 years in a row he hasn't played?
Yeah, he's avoided Denver for almost a decade. Wolves, Mavs, a little, playoff rematch. Is that a rivalry to you guys?
Luka not being there hurts.
Yeah. Luka hurts, but I would say a budding rivalry, another playoff matchup.
Potentially. Yeah. Okay. Another playoff rematch from rivalry week. Warriors, Kings.
Okay. Yeah, I buy that as a bit of a rivalry. Okay. They played that 7-game series. Steph ripped their heart out with a 55-point game in Sacramento. I think they met up in the play-in tournament.
Kings knocked them out.
Kings knocked them out.
So that's a little bit of a rivalry. They're also like, geographically near each other.
The NorCal rivalry, you know what I mean?
Okay.
The fight.
I'm in on that one.
Yeah, Quinton Post made a lot of appearances in that game, really added to the spiciness. So, I'm with you on that.
Quinton Post versus Alex Len, everybody's talking about it.
No.
I'm getting a sense you guys aren't really feeling this. Heat versus Bucks.
Well, the only rivalry with the Heat I want to see is Jimmy versus Pat. So
there is a rivalry there.
Hey, we got Celtics Lakers.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic,
right?
Classic.
Yeah. How about Pelicans Grizzlies?
What's the
what is the rationale?
Ja versus Zion,
I suppose. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I don't think of them as rivals. It would be cool if they were both always on the court playing against each other. I could see them developing into rivals, but that's a dream rivalry, I think.
Lakers versus Warriors. A little LeBron, Steph, nostalgia.
I guess. It's like the battle for which neutral fans will bandwagon to. It's like that's the bandwagon rivalry right there.
No, but I think that's a bigger question for you guys. Like rivalries don't exist. I feel like when I think about rivalries now, I think about former NBA players calling out current NBA players on podcasts. I think about just like social media beefs.
Yeah.
And this is not how I used to think about rivalries. It was like teams facing each other in the regular season, in the playoffs, like over the years, or like superstars going up against each other. All that stuff I feel like is gone. Does that still exist?
Well, you guys are older than me. You guys got more time in this game. You know what I mean? Well, why don't you guys tell us about but seriously, what happened to NBA rivalries? Like, what qualifies as a good rivalry for you is a good question as well. But just in general, what happened? Like, why is there less bad blood? It feels.
I think the key is multiple playoff series against each other. Like, we were pretty close to having a Suns versus Mavericks rivalry when it was Luka on the come up. Devin Booker was kind of his main adversary. Chris Paul was around. You know, obviously the Suns aren't quite as good as they used to be. Luka's hurt right now as well, but they had some beef. You know, it definitely felt like Luka and Devin Booker hated each other and were trying to get in each other's heads and just generally upset with the other guy. So I think that was a rivalry. Like, we had a budding rivalry with the Grizzlies during the Dillon Brooks era. With the Lakers, remember he was fighting with Shannon Sharp on the sidelines as well. But now Dillon Brooks is on another team, and the Rockets are starting their own rivalries with the Grizzlies sometimes. So I think there are players who incite rivalries, but the fact that maybe it's like contracts are shorter. Players change teams more often. So like Dillon Brooks is a big rivalry guy. His teams have rivalries, but if he leaves the Grizzlies, like, it's not quite the same.
Right.
Grizzlies versus Lakers doesn't have the same heat if he's not there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, there's less team versus team rivalries now. Whereas, like, even a player, like when Dillon Brooks switches teams, he's still a villain against some of the same guys. So maybe you have more kind of player versus player. But like team versus teams, like you think about the 90s, like, you know, the Bulls against the Knicks, Bulls against the Pacers, Knicks, Pacers, Knicks, Heat. Like, you could just go down the line. We used to have all of that. I don't think, like, can you name one big team versus team rivalry right now in the NBA?
You
like,
mean
what's the
besides
biggest
Kings Warriors?
Yeah,
the 10th, 11th seed.
Yeah. Like, that's the standard right now.
That's the playing team. Yeah.
Like, off the top of your head, like, there's no two teams that when they get together, they really hate each other like that.
Yeah, but I think what I need to see is like also players being open that they don't like each other. You know, I think everyone tries to play it cool, or they try to downplay stories. Like, everyone's a little too cool. Like, come out and say, I don't like these guys, and I look forward to playing them next time so I can kick their ass. Like, that would be a great way to actually like spark this thing. I think, you know, I mean, basketball is not really like professional wrestling, but like professional wrestling, like all they do is like hype up a storyline and then it's a payoff. And so even when the competition obviously isn't like, you know, real competition, but like people still buy into it and it's like an entertaining product. I feel like the NBA can lean a little bit more into that direction, and it doesn't need to be you're changing how you play or you're physically hurting each other, you know, although that certainly helps develop a rivalry if you do some physical damage. But even just like, you know, actually shit talking through the media, I think that would really, really help. And just being open that like, I don't like you guys.
Yeah, you're probably right. And maybe there's a criticism that players are a little too stage managed, right? Like, you don't want to give the other team bulletin board material, but that's why the playoff series really brings it out of people. It's like you play against each other for 7 times. Eventually there will be some sort of physical confrontation, and you're getting asked about the same people for a week straight. You're bound to slip up and say something that might incite the other fans, the other team. But in general, you know, the players would rather save it for their own podcast.
There's also that part too.
Yeah, no, but that's where all the beefs are now, right? Like podcasts or like players versus media. I feel like it's becoming like the new rivalry.
That's so lame.
Which I think no one's really that interested in.
No.
Well, Stephen A's interested in it, but like for everyone else, it's like.
But like if you're a general NBA fan, like you don't really care about that stuff, right? It's tiring after a while.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a media calling out a player getting upset.
What about me versus Chris Boucher, man?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Me and Chris are great.
Yeah, you guys are great now.
Smoothed it over?
Oh, totally, man.
Excellent.
It was a whole storyline.
Pure smooth. So in honor of these rivalries that aren't happening today, we're going to do an 8-round draft of NBA rivalries. As usual, Trey, being the guest, gets to draft first in each round. Will go second. And I'm the loser who goes last. So round 1, Trey, this is team versus team rivalry. So team versus team rivalry, what's your pick?
This was the easiest choice for me of the 8 rounds. I only had Bulls versus Knicks.
Oh, love that one.
Yeah.
That is like a foundational part of my personality. Like, even though I enjoy watching the Knicks, they've got a former Bulls coach. They had Taj Gibson for a long time. Jalen Brunson made his name in Illinois. They're a fun team to watch, and I hate them, and I love every time they lose because they played against the Bulls back in the 1990s, literally 30 years ago when I was a young boy.
Yeah.
It's still ingrained in my heart, meeting in the playoffs a couple of times. Obviously, you got Jordan and Xavier McDaniel going forehead to forehead. Important moments for me. John Starks, still hated to this day, somehow made his way to the Bulls and nobody could believe it.
I forgot about that.
I feel like the Bulls' first rival was definitely the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, Bad Boy Pistons.
But I was like 4 years old when that one really kicked off. I was like 7 by the time the Knicks rivalry really heated up. You also throw in the Jordan versus Patrick Ewing. They played against each other in college, that kind of stuff. Jordan always getting the best of Ewing. So for me, that is the rivalry that kind of like defines me as a person. That's sad to say.
No, but
these guys 30 years ago fighting about basketball, that makes me who I am. But yeah, I got Bulls flags hanging, so it's down with the Knicks on this side.
Don't worry, that's us with the Raptors championship. You know, 30 years later, we'll be like, yo, man, Raptors won. Kawhi. People are like, yo, man, we're flying.
Still our personality trait 30 years later, for sure. No, that's a great one. You go back to the 90s, man. Like, just the spin-offs from that, too. Like, the Knicks get into rivalries with the Pacers, right? Reggie Miller and Knicks and the Heat. You know,
I was gonna say the Knicks are like the ultimate rivalry team. It's like they're this like central touch point that I felt like really like, you know, that the Knicks were like the attitude era.
But you only need one team to be like kind of that agitator. And then it kind of just spreads through the rest of the league, right?
They were the heels for everybody. And also importantly, like the Knicks were good for the entirety of the 90s, right? So they could run into the Bulls as rivals and then the Pacers as well. Then the Heat as well.
They played the Heat 4 straight playoff series.
Yeah, and they had the Riley factor as well. I guess the Kurt Thomas factor. Maybe not as important, but definitely the Rileys.
Not KT.
But maybe that's part of it too, right? Like you need teams to be good for a decade to develop multiple rivalries. Right now, it's the parity era, so teams can be up for 3 or 4 seasons and then down for 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, and inevitably you play enough times against each other, same guys, you're just going to get sick of each other. And that's just what happens, right? So, Will, what is your pick for round 1 team rivalry?
Yeah, you know, I'm a newer NBA fan, so I'm gonna have to just go with Cavs Warriors. Like, how could you not call this a rivalry, man?
Okay.
You know, meeting each other, like the two teams dominating their respective conferences. You know, I think it's been really cool now that LeBron and Steph are older and they're no longer relevant to the championship picture. They can just sit back and they're like, oh man, like that was like a rap battle. Like, you know what I mean? Like East Coast versus West Coast. Even though Cleveland is on no coast at all, unless you're talking about Lake Erie. But like, it's just that was a definitive era. You know what I mean? And like, I think the Raptors got caught up in that because like, you know, 3 times the Cavs beat the Raptors in that stretch as well. That's not a rivalry. That's one-sided.
I mean, the Rockets got caught up in that a little bit. Right.
There's like no one else was able to sort of like interrupt that. And maybe at that time we were like, oh, you know, it feels like the league is too predictable, whatever. But they also were really good regular season teams. Like the Warriors having a 72-win season or 73-win season and then ultimately losing. That 7-game series is like still arguably like the greatest playoff series ever played. Like, you know, that was amazing. KD choosing to join in on the rivalry because he kind of merged. Him and LeBron always had like a little 1-2 thing going, you know, like who's the best small forward in the league. You know, they battled for MVPs at times as well. I mean, LeBron always kind of got the best of KD when you look at their head-to-head record. But then KD's like, I'm tired of losing to LeBron. I'm just going to join the Warriors. And like, I don't know. It was pretty great to see. And even at the end, when LeBron's just kind of by himself there almost in a way, because Kyrie had been traded, Kevin Love was like more faded, whatever. He was still giving them like 50 plus points. You know, like those were always must-watch television.
Yeah, I think it's a great rivalry because it's like you could list off probably like top 10 moments from that rivalry. Like Draymond suspension, you mentioned the J.R. Smith moment. Like the Cavs coming back from 3-1. My guy Matthew Dellavedova, you know, having a couple huge games.
Yeah, to get IVs.
Sent him to the ER after.
That's what I mean, man.
Yeah, so like that I think present day, I would say that's probably the most recent, like most intense rivalry.
That's the closest we have had to like Lakers versus Celtics in the 80s. It's like those are the 2 best teams. They've got MVPs on both sides. They're awesome every single year, and they meet in the finals every single year. It was fun.
And now LeBron and Steph, you know, love each other. So
but they're still rivals according to the NBA.
That's right. Still rivals.
It's funny though to think because like when it was happening, when Warriors versus Cavs was happening, it felt like there was animosity between Steph and LeBron, right? Like when LeBron blocked a shot and he's kind of like staring him down, that kind of stuff. It also felt like, LeBron drew out the suspension from Draymond Green on a flagrant foul. Yeah. But now all those guys are like best buddies.
Yeah.
Right? No. Like we love seeing Steph and LeBron play together in the Olympics. Yeah. Draymond loves LeBron. He's like the number one LeBron fan out there.
They go to every clutch Christmas party.
They're dirty dancing together, man. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, so rivalries again are dead. For me, round one, I'm going to go with the early 2000s, Lakers versus the Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
For me, I just, Lakers really dominated that, but like the 2002 Western Conference Finals was super intense. The Robert Horry shot at the buzzer, the Tim Donaghy game in Game 6. And even over those years, they met a few times in the playoffs. I remember there was a Rick Fox, Doug Christie fight that took place in the preseason game.
Wow. In a preseason game?
It was a preseason game. Wow. Phil Jackson was just ripping on the city of Sacramento the whole time. And yeah, that to me was one of my favorite rivalries, just seeing them meet up, seeing the Kings try to kind of get over the top, kind of like the Knicks with the Bulls, and the Lakers always finding a way to pull it out. To me, I miss those kind of intense rivalries that build in the playoffs. So I'm gonna take that one.
That's a good pick, man. Yeah, that's a good pick, man. Preseason fighting is crazy. I mean, we have fights coming up later.
We do have fights coming up.
Crazy to fight in a preseason game, right?
What? People are just trying to get cardio in.
Yeah. Okay. Round 2. This is player rivalry. So player versus player. Trey, what's your pick?
Well, I was leaning towards Magic versus Larry, but that's way too old for Will. So I'm going to update by 20 years. Shaq versus Kobe.
Oh, classic.
All time.
Awesome. Brothers at one point, driven apart.
All time.
Eventually, their beef went into rap songs. Shaq, Tell Me How My Ass Tastes. You also heard a little bit of their rivalry in court cases. But man, it was awesome. They won 3 championships together, but then, Kobe surpassed Shaq. So Shaq had to leave. He got his title. Kobe got 2 titles. After that, they had the awesome Christmas game. They were carrying the rivalry torch post Jordan. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's an all-time pick.
That's an all-time pick. Literally, there's entire beef histories. Shouts to SB Nation.
Check out Secret Base.
That you can go back through this era, and it's genuinely nasty to see, man. And players changing teams, and when they first played each other on Christmas Day the following year after Shaq was in Miami, it's one of the most anticipated Christmas days ever. Opening up a beef on Christmas, Is that the one where?
That's what I asked for.
That might be even better than the preseason fight, man. You're like, oh yeah, Kobe and Shaq.
Is that the one where Shaq shoved Andrew Bynum too? I think he dunked on him in the next play down. So it's all these side rivalries. That one's a great one because it just started when they were teammates.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what I mean? This is not we're just going up against each other on the court. Type of rivalry. It's we genuinely did not like each other.
Yes.
Even as we were building a dynasty together.
Right. And it's even better because after when Shaq left and then he wins the chip with Miami, Shaq was ahead, and then Kobe pulled ahead with 2 more.
Right.
Over time, I think these wounds healed themselves. I mean, it's you're not going to carry a beef into retirement or something like that. But it got really sweet to see Shaq being at Kobe's last game. And Shaq said before the game, I want to see you get 50. And Kobe just being the guy that he was, he's no, I'll give you 60 instead. That's even that is
part of the rivalry.
It's another epilogue. It's amazing to see, and I am a sucker too for happy endings. The fact that they were able to actually get on the same page, down the line, and you can tell because Kobe's whole thing was I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna work hard more than everybody. Mamba mentality, whatever. And then Shaq was yeah, man, have you seen me?
Yeah, exactly. Opposite personality.
I'm going to dunk on you. What do you mean, man? You put 4 guys on me, I'll dunk on you.
Oh, you have to practice to be good?
Why you'll practice?
I'm not doing that.
I will just see you in the finals, man. You, me, Tim Donaghy. Let's get it going.
Oh, man.
That's a great pick.
I love that one. Will, what's your pick?
There's no other pick. How about I try to sell you on a more modern
Let's go.
Okay, let's go.
It's going to require some aggressive selling on my part.
Okay. Do not say Kyle Kuzma versus Spencer Dinwiddie.
Oh, no, come on.
I don't know if we have best insult on here, but Din Shitty Island. An all-time neg from Kyle Kuzma.
Din Shitty Island, Kuzma, just a lot of fecal talk here. 2021 NBA draft class?
2021 NBA draft class. Okay, make your case. Yeah.
Scotty Barnes versus Evan Mobley.
Okay.
A future rivalry. I'm investing at a very low level. Okay. Right now.
Getting on the ground floor.
Okay. Right now, obviously, Scotty obviously took year one against Evan.
Rookie of the year.
Yeah. Rookie of the year.
Yep.
Hotly contested race. Turns out it was a really good class.
Yeah.
Şengün, Franz Wagner, those two. Jalen Green's been pretty good. Jalen Suggs is even pretty good. You know what I mean? Like lots of good players. But, still, those two at the top. Very, very close Rookie of the Year race. One of the most closest we ever got. That was fun. And then since then, Scotty made the first All-Star team, but Evan's going to make the All-Star team this year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tied at 1-1. Obviously, I think Evan's on a way more successful team than Toronto right now. But you can also argue that he's also got a lot of other great teams to play with. My point is, could this rivalry grow into something bigger than it is? I know I'm like trying so hard to pitch you guys.
Well, I guess my question back to you is like, if they put Raptors Cavs on rivalry week, are you excited?
I would be excited. The two fan bases love yelling. Are we
laughing this rivalry week matchup out of the gym?
I mean, Raps Cavs do have other history, but like the LeBronto history, I suppose.
Sure.
But this doesn't necessarily tap into that because this is actually way more even.
I feel like they need to face off in like a big kind of environment. Like if Raptors get them in like a 1-8 matchup or something at some point.
I need both of those guys to actually vocalize that, like, you know what?
Yeah.
We actually don't like each other, but like we really like playing against each other. We really like this matchup.
Because the big rivalry from that draft is Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green.
Oh, Cade.
Right? They don't like each other, right? Yeah. And they've kind of always been compared to each other in the rankings.
But again, that's a very random rivalry that's not going to materialize.
Right.
Like Detroit, Houston.
Pistons, Rockets in the finals.
One key part of a beef can't be, y'all were beefing? We didn't even know. We didn't even know. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't watch a lot of Rockets, Pistons over the years, but am I selling you this as a potential future beef?
Trey, what do you think?
Look, I'll buy a few shares of your potential beef. Okay, I'm a little concerned. I think Scotty could carry the beef from a personality standpoint. Yes. Definitely more of an outgoing guy.
Evan seems very
Mobley seems pretty low key.
Yeah, he's gonna step away from this if it gets a little intense.
All right, we need one fight between them, and then we're good.
Okay,
one little fight. All right,
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take when LeBron James beef with DeShawn Stevenson. So this was back in
classic
2008 when the Wizards and Cavs were a bit of a rivalry, and during the playoffs, DeShawn Stevenson said that LeBron was overrated, and LeBron replied and said, it's kind of funny. It's almost like Jay-Z being compared to Soulja Boy. It doesn't make sense to respond. And then Soulja Boy showed up to the next playoff game, seated behind one of the baskets courtside, and was doing the crank that dance and waving towels at LeBron. The Wizards did win that game by 36 points.
Wow.
Yeah, the Cavs won that series.
Well,
Jay-Z got wind of this because Jay-Z was friends with LeBron.
Sure.
And he was in Oakland doing a performance, and he was at a club and had the DJ play Too Short's Blow the Whistle, and then dropped a diss track aimed at DeShawn Stevenson.
Over the whistles?
Blow the Whistle. Yeah, the Too Short song. Yep. And but I think DeShawn Stevenson kind of got a little revenge on LeBron in that. Wasn't he on that Mavs team?
He was on the Mavs team.
That beat that Miami team, right?
Yeah.
So, that's a random rivalry that I remember.
Every great player, like all-time great player, needs to have like one guy who was like set up to be his stopper.
It's like it's like role player beef. It's like all-time great versus a role player.
Yeah, you're like, I'm known for beefing with you.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I looked it up because I couldn't remember. DeShawn Stevenson definitely won a title with the Mavs. Yeah. And then to the parade afterwards, he wore a shirt that said, "Hey, LeBron, how's my Dirk taste?"
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Okay.
See, he was living it up, man. Like, he made his name.
That's
first thing with DeShawn Stevenson, he got compared to Michael Jordan as a draft prospect.
Yep.
The second thing is that he was beefing with LeBron. So pretty good for a guy who just had like a normal career.
Well, in this case, do we award DeShawn Stevenson the winner? With the fact that he got that W over LeBron on the biggest stage. LeBron's arguably like biggest failure of his career, because he was heavily scrutinized for losing that finals.
It's not even debatable. That definitely was the biggest.
Does that mean DeShawn Stevenson played the long game and won the beef?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it goes to DeShawn Stevenson.
I'll give you that 100%. If you give me a Scotty versus Evan beef.
There we go. Yeah, I'll buy both.
Try to sell that.
Please let me know if you need picks for the next rounds.
It's the 30th anniversary, and our friends at Axe are joining the celebration with a limited edition collection that's as original as the Toronto Raptors themselves.
The collection includes 3 essentials to keeping you fresh. The body spray features 48-hour high-definition scent, blending sea mist and grapefruit to keep you unstoppable throughout the day. The deodorant stick is perfect for staying confident, with a scent that keeps you smelling irresistible while showing your Raptors pride. And the body wash delivers a luxurious lather that leaves you feeling clean and smelling astonishing after every shower.
For over 40 years, Axe has drawn on body spray research and the expertise of the world's leading perfumers to craft quality fragrances and help people feel confident in their own skin.
Find the Axe Toronto Raptors 30th Anniversary Limited Edition collection at all major retailers, Walmart, Shoppers Drug Mart, and Real Canadian Superstore. But act fast because it's only available for a limited time.
Celebrate the milestone with Axe and the Toronto Raptors. Channel the freshness, energy, and unstoppable spirit of our local champions, because smelling great is always a slam dunk.
Round 3, Trey. This is player versus a city, a team, an organization.
I'm sticking with the Knicks, but it's got to be Reggie Miller versus the Knicks because they were beefing in the 90s during the playoffs. Reggie obviously hit the huge shots, did the choke to Spike Lee. They made a whole documentary about it. Fast forward 25 years later, you got Reggie Miller beefing with the current Knicks, calling the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes.
The Knicks are winning games late, and Josh Hart is going over and talking shit to Reggie Miller.
That's right.
That was crazy. That, like, there was a beef between a current announcer and a team just because this guy was great against them. 2 decades earlier, that was hilarious to me to see it actually come full circle. Reggie was like asking for people to boo him while he's on the mic and stuff. Awesome stuff.
See, this is what makes a good rivalry. Somebody who's a willing participant. Reggie's like, yeah, man, I love being a little shithead. Click, click, welcome to your Kodak moment. Like he just loves rubbing it in. Like he actually relishes that. You know, like him being the little brother, and like always sort of like, being annoying. Like little brothers are annoying. You know what I mean? And especially when your oldest sister's scoring 100 points, you might be extra annoying to get attention. So that's him. And it makes it lovable. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, obviously every Knick fan actually respects Reggie.
Right.
For what he does and his ability as a player. So I love that. Multi-generational too, man. Also, Josh Hart, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
You were around for that? I feel you got a little young, man.
Damn. All right, Will, player versus city, team, or organization?
I feel like I might be stealing one that you would want to do. James Harden.
Okay.
Uno. Versus Daryl Morey.
That's
James Harden.
That was on my freestyle round.
Daryl Morey. Okay, so the history here is there's a lot of love, and then it ends really badly, which is a good plot. You know what I mean? The love comes from Daryl Morey making his career on the James Harden trade. It's an objectively amazing trade. He fleeced OKC, brought him in, made him the franchise player. He then not only builds the whole team around him, pretty good teams as well. Like, all that stuff is good, but he kind of goes a little too far. Like, you hear the little tidbits of like, there's a painting of James Harden at Daryl Morey's house. He probably commissioned.
And Daryl, in every interview during that time, like, was legitimately saying that Harden has a case for being a better player than Michael Jordan.
Yes, offensively. He said he's a better offensive player than Michael Jordan. And he would say this like on purpose. Like without sort of like, conceit.
Like no GM's ever been all in on a player on this level.
Not quite like that.
This is a crazy level all in. And then James, eventually that Rockets team, like, whatever, it hits the ceiling, can't ever get past the Warriors. James has like several, infamous playoff flameouts. And then he decides, I want to go. And when James decides I want to go, like it's he makes Jimmy Butler look like child's play. He's wearing the fat suit. He's all that kind of stuff. Now at that point, Daryl Morey had already moved on. He had already gone to Philadelphia. Daryl Morey's like, here's my next move. I'm bringing him to Philadelphia as well. They brought him back. He's like on the plane. He's hugging him. He's like, oh man, we're gonna do this. It looks like a pretty good combo. Him and Joel Embiid. They go on to have some famous flameouts of their own. And then, of course, the contract dispute comes up. There's a tampering involved in this. Remember Daniel House
Daniel House and PJ Tucker.
They fixed the housing market, as I will always like to say, which is ridiculous. Then, of course, you had the situation where that contract that was promised to James Harden, gets investigated by the league. Ultimately, I guess the Sixers don't get fined for it. But it basically was promised a max, doesn't actually get the max. That's what drives him to want out again.
And he's snitching during this point, saying that basically Daryl Morey promised him a deal, which got him investigated.
And the best part is he's snitching across 2 continents.
Yes,
because
so he's in China.
In America, he's talking to Sam Amick, doing the regular thing of like, what, I'm going to leak to you that, what, there was a promise max here, and he went back on that promise. That's like one of the ultimate things you cannot do in management in sports is to do that. And then he goes to China as he does every summer because he's immensely popular, you know, and he just starts talking to random people at like a random fan event where just like thousands of fans like wanting to get a signature or a photo. And he's like, Daryl Morey is a liar.
Yeah.
And I'll never play for him again.
And then they had bottle service girls at a club hold up a sign that said Daryl Morey is a liar while he was partying.
And the other part is Daryl Morey's immensely unpopular in mainland China.
Yes.
This guy was trying to incite World War III just to get traded off the team.
Ultimate move.
It's actually like there's so many layers to this, and it is very funny to me on both ends. So I really love this one.
Do you think the two of them will reconcile maybe like, you know, 10, 15 years, maybe even sooner than that when their career, when James's career is over?
I just don't see the incentive. But
they were so tied together.
Yeah.
Like when people think about James's career and when they think about Daryl's career, they're going to think about each other.
Maybe. I think they definitely will think about each other's career. They're tied together.
So
exactly
tied together.
Like you're saying.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably not as much animosity from Daryl Morey towards James Harden as there is from Harden to Morey. So it'd be a matter of Harden saying, it's all good, man. I still made $300 million plan. But also, James Harden was right.
James Harden does seem right.
They should have given him the max that they gave Paul George.
Oh yeah, that's right.
James Harden that plays, he's better.
That beef
his teams
also,
always make the playoffs.
Yeah, that beef actually also displays Paul George, which is actually very funny in all of this.
No, Trey's right though. I think James overall out of all of this has come out looking pretty good.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, he's come out looking like he was right. Yeah, so you guys picked some really good ones. I'm gonna go with Vince Carter versus Toronto. So man. I don't even know how much we need to revisit this, but you know, Vince, you know, height of his career, dunk contest, goes to the playoffs, goes up against the Sixers, and then a bunch of injuries. Team kind of falls apart, demands a trade, and during those last few months, says publicly he doesn't want to dunk. Apparently gave away a play to the Seattle Supersonics at the end of a game.
Yeah,
allegedly.
There's like 3 unnamed players on the Sonics who said that he indicated it was going to be a flare screen.
Yeah.
With Matt Bonner and Vince Carter.
Right. Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I requested a trade up.
They're like, whoa, that's the
okay, we can stop this.
A flare screen?
Wait, we got it. You know what? Maybe Vince was right.
The Raptor show?
Gets traded and then goes on TNT, tells John Thompson that like, I really wasn't trying in Toronto. And then you see his stats go up, and then even thinking about him coming back his first game here in Toronto.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know if that was the same game, but the one where he like got Mo Pete ejected because they were going back and forth,
slapping each other. Yeah,
and then
playfully.
And then the Raptors finally make it back to the playoffs with Chris Bosh, and then he's on the Nets team that knocks them out in the first round. So for like a decade, Vince was like a villain in Toronto with all these moments. So I'll go with that one.
Did he get a game winner in the first game back?
Yes, I think in overtime. Might have been an overtime.
I seem to remember. My memory's a little fuzzy from that time, but like, wasn't there a game where he hit like a reverse alley-oop dunk?
Yeah, he might have done that in OT in one of those games. Yeah,
Vince was pretty sick. Like he's got one of the craziest highlight tapes. What do you think about the Raptors now? Like they've embraced Vince Carter. The beef is over. He's on their court.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's just kind of, you know, this is just closure now. Everybody's moved on. You get to recognize what he did for the city. But you could even tell when Vince was doing all the interviews, like leading up to that, it was a little bit uneasy for him because he would get asked about that all the time. And he wouldn't give people the answer that they wanted. Yeah. People just wanted him to be like apologize, basically, to be like, oh, maybe I should have done things differently. But I think his approach was just like, oh, you guys can feel how you want to feel. About me. Yes. Which I think made some fans like not very happy still.
He doesn't want to wear 100% of the blame.
No.
Because he actually wasn't 100% to blame.
Sure.
And especially in a modern context, you look back on it, it's like, well, your team was pretty bad. Like, and he wants to go to a better team.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It wasn't any different than like any star who like wants to go to a better team.
Objectively, James Harden.
Except for the few.
Jimmy Butler mode.
Jimmy Butler. There
Jimmy
you go.
did it to Timberwolves, and now he's doing it to the Heat.
My honorable mention was Joakim Noah versus Cleveland.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh man, you like Cleveland?
You like it. I think Cleveland's cool. I mean, I've never heard anybody say I'm going to Cleveland on vacation.
And he said it.
What's so good about Cleveland is what he said. Yeah. So there we go. Okay.
He said it with a straight face too. That's what I'm saying, man. You need a player who embraces beef. I love that.
Yeah. We need more villains, man. Round 4, player versus coach rivalry.
How about Dwight Howard versus Stan Van?
No! All right, let me take my first pick off the board.
Oh, that's my first pick
Everybody
too.
loves it, man.
Oh my god.
Everybody loves this one because of the press conference.
I'm scrambling.
The most awkward press conference that you have ever seen. Dwight goes up to the mic. Everybody's got the scrum around him. They're asking him if he's requesting a trade or if he wants Stan Van Gundy to be fired. And he's like, no, I love it. I love it, man. Blah, 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 blah. And I think I actually flipped it around, right?
So Stan's answering the question.
Stan is answering the question.
And Dwight's coming in, like, puts his arm around.
He's like, he wants me gone. He wants me gone. And then he's like, oh, well, you could just ask Dwight.
Yeah, and he's right there. And he's drinking his Diet Pepsi.
It's the greatest Diet Pepsi ad of all time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's the greatest Diet Pepsi ad of all time.
Yeah.
That's my old YouTube account.
Yeah.
Is that video. They got shut down.
Yeah.
Because I posted that video.
Yeah.
But that's the only video I
posted. That was a video. That
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
They kept the video up. I just can't access the account.
Something's got to be immortalized. Yeah, that is really good because that then forced Stan to. I think he got fired, or I'm not totally sure. Maybe he just left willingly or whatever. But he leaves, and then 3 months later, Dwight Howard's like, "Yeah, never mind. I'm also leaving."
Yeah.
Like, why did? Yeah, Dwight Howard's I don't know. He's in the middle of a lot of these beefs, like him and Shaq.
Yeah, that was a little tiring for me.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that it's still going on.
Yeah,
but the Dwight thing was weird because they were just doing anything they possibly could to make him happy and keep him. He still wanted to go to LA. It didn't go well in LA. Went to Houston eventually.
Right.
It was fine in Houston.
Yeah.
But Dwight was a weird guy to be like a major face of the league.
Right.
Yeah.
In the early 2010s.
It's funny you mention that now because I totally forgot about Dwight in LA, which is ultimately obviously where he went. But that's also like another addendum to the Shaq Kobe beef because it was a kind of another version of a Shaq Kobe beef because Kobe was like, I don't like you either.
Yeah.
Yes.
For similar reasons, actually.
Stop smiling so much.
Yeah.
I hate it when my centers smile.
Go play pick and roll. Dwight Howard also used to love to do like the whole like let me post up, try to do
the little post ups,
jump hooks.
Yeah. He was no Hakeem Olajuwon.
He certainly was not.
He trained with them a lot, though.
Yeah, well, it didn't work.
Never bought it. Every time I saw him, I'm like, this ain't going to work.
Didn't work.
There's a video, Hakeem in that interview, he's like, you got a jump hook? And I'm like, that's a good question, Hakeem.
I can jump.
Yeah. All right. Will, what is your player versus coach?
I'm scrambling so hard.
Rivalry.
I'm going to have to just go chalk. I'm sorry. Like, it's Kobe versus Phil.
Yeah.
The fact
that's a big rivalry.
Huge rivalry.
Yeah.
I was banking on that being the first pick, so I can take this one because I love this one so much. Mm-hmm. When you get to the point where all the people involved are so famous, where they both have equally amount to lose and equal amount of face to save, it makes for people to be really honest because they're actually on equal footing. Because usually nowadays, coaches can't really beef with stars. You look at Pat Riley versus Jimmy Butler. Can't really do it anymore because like stars are always going to outweigh the coach. Right? There's no coach in the league. Maybe Greg Popovich. If Greg Popovich came out and was like beefing with Wemby, actually, honestly, he would even lose that. That's not even close. Right?
I mean, Pop couldn't get a control of Kawhi's situation. He wanted to go. He left.
There you go. Yeah. That's a perfect example. Yeah. This was great because this is Phil Jackson, who has already won 9 championships at this point, who is also dating Jeannie Buss at the time.
Yep.
That is crazy. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So he has as much equity as Kobe does in LA.
No, it's a true power struggle.
So the fact that he goes on to write the book the last season and he goes on to like slander Kobe and like call him all that stuff, which is crazy. And then they win 2 more tips afterwards.
Yeah, he slanders him like personally and as a basketball player.
Yes.
And then, like you mentioned, the craziest epilogue is they come back. They come back, join up, and win titles.
They win 2 more titles afterwards. I think it's something that you will never see again in the league, I feel like, because the power dynamic has shifted so much more towards players. And I think in a good way. But also at this time is like 2 people in equal footing fighting it out. And again, this is a last second pick because I wanted Stan Van. I want that Diet Pepsi ad.
Should have given you my cheat sheet, man.
That's crazy to think, though. Like, the Lakers won 5 titles, and their 2 best players were beefing, and then their star and their coach were beefing.
Yeah.
Pretty good team.
No, they were always
it's a testament to that. You know, you can have success in toxic work environments. It's possible. No, because so true. You know how we always talk about like chemistry of teams, like guys got to get along.
Yeah.
Like the OKC guys are always doing those group interviews after.
Yeah.
Like maybe they should not like each other a little bit.
Too friendly.
Yeah, they're too friendly. Too friendly. Mine will be quick. Latrell Sprewell versus PJ Carlesimo.
That's pretty good.
And we may move on.
So why I don't even understand the history there. Like,
I think
why did he choke him?
PJ Carlesimo was just like a really hard-nosed coach, pushing very hard in practice.
Yeah.
And was really picking on Latrell Sprewell that day.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, Latrell Sprewell just had enough that day. And that was it.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep, that's really
Just choked him out of nowhere.
That's
Wow,
really-
didn't he? I think the line is like PJ said, "Put some more mustard on it."
Yeah.
Like Latrell Sprewell threw a lazy pass. Or something.
Right. And that was
And
it.
then
That
he's
took,
like-
but it was like a long history
Yeah,
building up to it, and that was over the line.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so there we go. And then Latrell Sprewell, he did fine.
Didn't he also
Went
get
to the
suspended
Knicks.
for like 60 games?
He was gone for the
gone
season.
for a long
He was
time.
gone for the
Yeah.
season. Yeah.
Damn.
But then
David Stern was not playing, man. I feel like if you choke someone in Adam Silver's NBA, you'd be like, all right, man, come back next week.
David
15
Stern
games.
is not
Do a
playing.
little counseling, and then we'll come back, man.
Round 5, this is the Draymond versus category. So I'm guessing we all have the same 4 or 5 names here. Okay, Draymond versus round 5, Trey. Who you got?
Well, I mean, speaking of therapy, here you go. It's got to be Draymond versus Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Because Draymond hated Rudy Gobert for winning all those Defensive Player of the Years.
Yeah.
So when he got a chance to actually get in a physical fight with him, he's like, I'm choking this guy.
He ran the full length of
man.
the court
He's
to
like-
make it happen.
He saw McDaniels and Klay Thompson getting in it, and he's like,
Yeah.
Yes, I got this. Let's go. I'm the enforcer here. Credit to Rudy Gobert. He's like, yeah, not that good of a choke. Wasn't even close to passing out, which is a hilarious response to that. But I thought it was so good. The screenshots are hilarious of Draymond with Rudy actually in a physical headlock on the court during an NBA game. This one is one that I think will last into retirement because you're going to always be able to go and look at Draymond having fewer defensive players of the year than Rudy Gobert does, and that is always going to eat at Draymond.
For sure. And I think that, like, a couple things, that fight was 2 minutes into the start of the game.
Yeah.
2 minutes in. They weren't trying to hoop that
And
night.
it was
We're dropping gloves right away.
And it was the second straight game that they played against each other in Golden State.
Yeah.
Draymond was getting ready.
One normal one fight game.
Yeah, exactly. That part it's pretty amazing. There's the insecurity is always loud, which was great because Draymond punched Jordan Poole, and Rudy Gobert was subtweeting him, and he said insecurity is always loud.
Yeah.
And then when Rudy Gobert got into a fight with Kyle Anderson in the play-in game against the Lakers, and he punched him, Draymond then went on to subtweet and said insecurity is always loud.
Well, this is the thing about Draymond. Like, he'll not just beef with you, but he'll never let it go.
Yeah, he likes the beef.
Think about him being he was the TNT commentator in the Western Conference Finals when Luka got that shot over Rudy.
Yes.
And like there was not any objective like basketball analysis after that from Draymond in the studio. He was thrilled that happened.
He was the biggest Luka Doncic fan.
Yeah, he was thrilled. Yeah.
Even Shaq and Barkley were like, I think we should be a little more objective here. Let's talk about the game.
Even Shaq is like taking up for Rudy Gobert, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's when you know it's crossed the line. Okay, Draymond versus.
There's a lot of good options here. I think I'm also gonna have to just take Jordan Poole. Like,
okay,
I think there's good history here, only in the sense that I think Jordan Poole is actually from Michigan as well. Mm-hmm. So like, there's a history there. I'm sure like at some point Draymond was a mentor to him. Obviously they win a chip together, a pool party. It looked like, okay, wow, the Warriors have been able to sustain and extend their run. It's like in a smaller way, because I would never compare Jordan Poole to Kawhi Leonard, but it's like, oh yeah, the older core, but then a new guy comes in and sort of extends it, just like how Kawhi did it for the Spurs. And then they get into that summer, and it's all about who's going to get paid or not. And I think it was just Warriors management had a situation where they got to pay Wiggins, they got to pay Jordan Poole, and then they also got to pay Draymond and eventually Klay. And of course, that ultimately set up a huge, cascading set of decisions. Obviously, Klay's not there anymore. Draymond still is there, but he had to take a pay cut. And I think that maybe even just at that time, and also Jordan Poole is a bit of an annoying guy.
Yeah.
I could totally see him just, like prancing around, being like, "Oh, Draymond, man, you broke? You a little cash or something?
Yeah.
You need to save a couple per diems? Like, what do you need to do, y'all? Because I got the max over here."
Yeah.
And then of course that's not excusing Draymond for
It's definitely not excusing him launching a punch at his teammate.
assaulting him.
Yeah.
And not only punching him, but punching him to the other side of the country. to the Wizards of all places, which is like maybe the worst situation in the league. But it's great. And then I think the other thing too is just like Jordan Poole has not really forgiven Draymond, which has been sort of the storyline recently this week. Like they played each other, the Wizards and the Warriors, and he's like, yeah, I like most of those guys over there. You know what I mean? But Draymond's like, no, look, I think you should really like accept my apology. I think we should really be cool. I think we should move on from this. And it's like, dude, you do not get to decide.
He does not get to decide. And like we've talked about this too.
You cannot escape consequences.
On a podcast interview recently too, he was like, man, that punch really helped me become a better vet.
Don't punch. No.
He's like, that experience helped me learn to be a better vet. Yeah.
Yes.
Which again, you can't say that.
No, here's the thing. You cannot use therapy as an excuse for shitty behavior. Yes. That's one of the key takeaways that you should be getting from those therapy sessions, Draymond.
I've been wanting to start therapy, so I'm going to do something terrible real quick.
That's a good
Jordan Poole, you got to be in
him saying about Poole, like, can't you just give it up and move on?
I'm
like, what? You're the guy who holds on to every beef forever.
No. Draymond's lost me on that one. I'm going to go with Draymond versus Kevin Durant. Draymond versus KD in that last season. What was it? It was a Clippers game. Clipper game. When what did Draymond was basically telling him, we don't need you?
It was a fast break. And it was a tie game at the end of the game. And the Warriors had the ball. Draymond had the rebound. And KD's like, yo, hit it up to me. I'm Kevin Durant, okay? Forget if I'm open or not. Like, I don't care if I'm open. I'm Kevin Durant. And Draymond's like, no, I can push a fast break right here and then maybe do a triple handoff. Domantas Sabonis style. And it just was, and then he just like turned it over. And they went to the timeout and KD was like, yo, why don't you give me the ball? And Draymond was like, yo, why don't you leave this team? We don't need you. We hate you. It was like, whoa. Like, I mean, it's crazy overreaction.
I think KD was leaving anyways, but this probably, accelerated a little bit or pushed it in that direction. And it just seems like Draymond and KD have just had this beef. And Draymond also can't let this one go a little bit. Every time they get together, there's something. I think they've been friendly here and there, but then like Draymond will like chirp at him and stuff. So I feel like we covered the full list. I mean, Yusuf Nurkic is in there too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a, not really a top three.
Yeah, it's like a Gobert sequel. To me almost.
Do we miss any? I think those are the main ones for Draymond.
Draymond versus LeBron a little bit.
Yeah, but now they're so close. It's hard to see it as a rivalry.
Yeah. He's like his personal bodyguard at this point.
Yeah. Oh, Draymond versus Domantas Sabonis.
Oh, he
versus Sacramento.
Stomp on his chest.
Yeah. So
he had a stomp on his chest.
Hey man.
Hey buddy.
Just recently hit the big 4-0. What about you, bro?
A little more recently 4-0, but we are both in the 40 club.
Let me tell you, man, being an adult really comes with its share of challenges.
Definitely. I think both you and I are homeowners, and I think we're both also dealing with mortgages in life.
Yeah, man. Mortgage rates, choosing the right terms, dealing with paperwork. It can be really overwhelming,
I still don't know how that works.
Well, listen, that's where our friends at Dominion Lending Centers come in, man. They make the whole process simple and stress-free. Whether you're renewing your mortgage, hunting for the best rates, or if you just need advice, they're here to help, bro.
You know what? I am looking for that advice, and I think that's why I'm going to visit www.dominionlending.ca.
Yeah, man. www.dominionlending.ca. Take the guesswork out of your mortgage and step into financial confidence with our friends at Dominion Lending by our side. All right, round 6. This is for lifelong Bulls fan.
Oh, yes.
Trey. Michael Jordan versus.
This man has beefed with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm a little partial to Leroy Smith. This dude, okay, well.
Story time, let's go.
So Leroy Smith was the guy who I think when Jordan was a sophomore got chosen for varsity over Jordan.
Oh, okay.
Everybody says this was like the beginning of the Michael Jordan myth, right? Like
this is his Joker origin story.
This was his first guy that he had to overcome. So he does it. Wins a championship in college, wins 6 in the NBA, greatest player of all time, gets to his Hall of Fame retirement speech. First guy he mentions is Leroy Smith.
Wow.
That's crazy. They started making commercials of a fake Leroy Smith. Charlie Murphy played Leroy Smith.
Okay.
so literally this random dude from high school has had to deal with Michael Jordan talking shit about him for 60 years. Brings it up at the Hall of Fame induction. That was awesome.
That's kind of sick.
But for NBA players, I got to go Michael Jordan versus Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
Because we said, the Pistons had the Bulls number early in Jordan's career, 88, 90, 88, 89, and 90 knocked him out of the playoffs. They had the Jordan rules where they just knocked him down all the time. There's also the added factor. Isaiah Thomas is the best basketball player ever from Chicago, a Chicago hero. Sure. Suddenly this guy, Michael Jordan, comes in, makes the Bulls into the biggest team in the NBA. The most famous guy in the world takes over Chicago. So, people watch Home Alone. They're like, why in the world would Buzz McAllister have an Isaiah Thomas poster in his house in Chicago?
Wow.
Well, because it was 1990 when this movie came out, and Isaiah Thomas was still liked. Yeah, he was a Chicago hero, but Michael Jordan became the guy, and eventually they just continued to have beef. Jordan kept Isaiah Thomas off the dream team in 92 when clearly Isaiah should have been there. Like he could have had John Stockton's spot as far as I'm
and Isaiah
concerned.
Isaiah didn't look that great coming out of The Last Dance.
Definitely not. Definitely not. They have not smoothed it over at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and two of the worst basketball executives. Yeah.
Sure. I guess.
Yeah, they can maybe commiserate over that.
No, that's
Plan
great.
is easy, but owning teams, making decisions, that's tough.
I love MJ for never letting anything go. I think it's actually, in a way, a prerequisite to being great. Like, you have to be driven even when you're in the wrong. Yeah. And that kind of makes you, like, honestly, maybe objectively sometimes annoying, or maybe like just objectively wrong sometimes. But just to always hold that as like a bit of motivation for yourself. Like when they talk about bulletin board material, like this, anything was bulletin board material for MJ. Like I took that personally meme. Yeah. From The Last Dance. Is like the whole explanation behind like who he is.
Yeah, some people didn't like his Hall of Fame speech because like he came in really like going at people.
Settling scores.
Settling scores. Yeah. But I thought that was perfect encapsulation that's of who MJ was.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
It was hard to give Michael Jordan bulletin board material by the end of his career because everybody knew he was the man out there. So he had to just invent it.
Yeah. Also, shout out to you guys for mentioning the retirement speech without mentioning the crying Jordan meme, which is what everybody remembers that speech.
You know what? I feel really old now because crying Jordan meme had a generational run.
Bro,
on social media.
They were putting that on everything. Like it was Frank's Red Hot sauce. They're like, everything. Just anything.
That was a 3 to 4 year run.
Like Manchester United lost to Liverpool, and then there's like a crying Jordan meme on Sir Alex. Like what?
Oh man! All right, Will, what's your Michael Jordan?
For my research again, because I missed the whole career that he played here. Apparently, he had a beef with Charles Barkley.
Okay, yeah. This one is still running, I believe.
Yeah, it's still running because of course it is. Yeah. Bulls beat the Sixers twice in the playoffs, 1990, 1991. Those were Barkley's Sixers. Barkley gets traded over to the Suns in 92. They faced each other in the 93 finals that year. Barkley won MVP, and then Jordan went on to take down the MVP. It's not the first time he did that. He did the same thing to Karl Malone as well. Just like that's also another bit of good bulletin board material. Like it's just like, okay, you beat me, fine. You can take the MVP, I'll take the championship, which is what he actually said to Karl Malone, which is just fire in general. In between 92, obviously that's the Barcelona Dream Team. Yeah. And so they're famously great friends. They go out. They're like best friends. Yeah. Like if you go back in the archives, you could search, like there's an interview, a pretty famous one, where Jordan and Barkley are sitting down with Oprah. And they're like great friends and they're bantering and they're just, you know what I mean? Like this would be like if you and I beefed later on in life, you know what I mean? You're like, yo, Will's a shitty podcaster. I'd be like, all right, I'm crashing out. I'm going to just disown Alex. Like,
who's Canadian Oprah though? Jerry D?
Devin Haru.
Devin Haru is sick, man. Jerry D's a great call too. Shouts to the SCORE alumni, which we are all SCORE alumni as well. But yeah, and then of course, like, Charles goes on TV and he calls out Jordan for like being objectively like not a good decision maker. You know what I mean? Like just with the
telling
Wizards.
The truth.
Yeah, with the Charlotte, Hornets, and it's just it is what it is. Yeah. And now they've fallen out, and it's kind of sad because Charles is actually sad about it.
He's he does talk about it a lot. I'm genuinely
sad that I've lost one of my best friends, and Jordan's like, I don't care. I'm pass me another cigar.
Like, he's like, I'll find someone else to play blackjack with.
Yeah, exactly. That one is sad.
It is really sad
because, like you're saying, they were friends when they were playing, and they just became enemies as old men. Yeah. It just
like
seems like it should go the other way.
Post-career beef, it's like a weird post-career beef. I'm gonna go with Michael Jordan versus baseball. Just trying to play baseball
versus a curveball. Yeah.
So he gets his first three-peat. His dad tragically gets murdered.
Yes.
And then he surprises everyone, announces retirement, says he's going to go play baseball. 94 season, he's with the Birmingham Barons. It's a Double-A team for the White Sox, and his stats in 497 at bats, 3 home runs, 51 RBIs, 202 batting average, and a 556 OPS.
Damn.
Yeah. So
I think that's a low OPS.
that's a low OPS. Even if you don't know baseball. Yeah.
That's tough, man.
I believe an average OPS is about 650 to 700. And that makes you average. Yeah.
This guy had a lot of ops, but his biggest op was OPS.
So
That's tough. So what was it? He just couldn't hit like off speed? Like what was going on?
yeah, I mean, he said he had played baseball. He hadn't played baseball in like 20 years.
Oh, okay. All right,
He's like,
all right.
these curveballs are much better than the
He's like, whoa.
grade school kids I was playing against.
Yeah. So yeah, he ended up, of course, coming back wearing the 4-5. But yeah, I feel like MJ's biggest rival was baseball.
Yeah, and I think you can actually throw Sports Illustrated into the mix as well. Because
Yeah.
they did the cover that was like Bag It Michael,
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
showing him striking out, and he's never done an interview with Sports Illustrated since.
Yeah, he said no more. He's banned SI. Yeah. Oh
It's
man.
okay.
That's
Actually,
crazy, man.
MJ's more relevant now than SI is.
Yeah, he's like,
it's
"Oh, I'll
actually
last
totally,
him."
totally
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Damn.
Round 7, best fight. Just best fight as part of this rivalry series. Trey.
I mean, there's one that's a clear number 1 on the
Yeah.
draft boards, but I'm going a little deeper down for a personal favorite. The Clippers versus the Rockets in 2018.
Yes.
This is Chris Paul's return to LA with
Yes.
the Rockets. It's a real testy
Yes.
game. Like they're smashing into each other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players that like have relationships both ways. It's obviously Blake Griffin versus Chris Paul is the big part of it, but they're just like smashing into each other. It's a real rough game. But then apparently afterwards, a bunch of the Rockets tried to storm the Clippers locker room because Austin Rivers
right.
was running his mouth even though he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And they did this report on it. Raz Goldenwude is on Inside the NBA talking about it, saying how they're going into the tunnels, how there's a police presence, and Shaq and Chuck are dying laughing. They're imitating the Clippers, calling, this is Blake Griffin. Chris Paul's trying to beat me up. It's one of the funniest moments in Inside the NBA history.
Yeah.
And just a weird thing to be fighting about. Just, players who used to be on the same team, now they're split up, going head to head against each other. But the fallout I thought was just hilarious.
I completely forgot about that one. So I'm glad you brought it up. And very underrated in terms of rivalries or fights is that post game trying to get into the other guy's locker room.
Yeah.
Like, remember when the Miami Heat whole team was trying to go
right.
after Nikola Jokic?
And it was
Yeah.
Andy Ellenson, like
exactly.
the
Standing
GM.
at the door.
Yeah.
He's
yeah.
quite frankly filling the door frame.
Yeah,
He's
so
just
the
really
post,
blocking them.
the post game trying to hit the guy on the bus, like wait for him at the bus or go in the
yeah,
locker room.
yeah.
Those are the
Great.
best ones.
Yeah, see, this wasn't a real fight, but I guess I could leave it for freestyle. Never mind, I'll sit for freestyle.
Okay.
That's a great one. I love that one.
Yeah.
LAPD was called. It was just very, very funny to think about. Yeah.
I never heard the words police presence in my
Yeah.
life.
I love that they actually apologized to Roz because there wasn't anything wrong with Roz's reporting. It's just the situation was just so funny. I'm gonna go into the vault here. I had to do some research. This is why I was up at 3 a.m. I'm like, let me watch some old NBA fights, man.
There you
Let
go.
me see, because like I think about it, I'm like, okay, who has a recent fights that came top of mind? I'm like, okay, Serge Ibaka choking Marquise Chris for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, there's no history behind there. Serge just like lost his head for a bit, like Serge fighting James Johnson and Robin Lopez. I think this is all one calendar year. It's like Serge was really fighting people for no reason for a while.
Testy year.
Like it's like the Draymond stomping on guys, but like too much happens. Like guys like jump in, they grab each other, they throw one punch, they run away, Carmelo Anthony style, which also could have made this.
Yeah,
list.
that was a good one. Yeah,
The one I'm picking is Alonzo Mourning versus Larry Johnson.
that was my pick, man.
That was the fight. It was, Blood in the Garden, Heat versus Knicks. They played each other 4 years in a row in the playoffs, which is just like obviously going to create a lot of beef. Pat Riley, throw that element in there. Knicks did win 3 out of the 4 series. But this was probably the most iconic moment from the series. And it's not even because of that fight. I mean, they threw 4 punches at each other. They all missed, which is hilarious because they're all so big. Like Alonzo Mourning back then was like crazy big. It's just Jeff Van Gundy.
Hanging on to Zoe's leg.
Literally hanging on his Zoe's leg, which I'm like, so he was Knicks coach at the time, but he's trying to drag Alonzo Mourning out of there. And he's just like,
By the leg.
how did he got there within an instant. Like he just like the fight started, they threw 4 punches, and then Alonzo's like, wait, there's a guy hanging on my leg.
I miss those days when like 8 guys would get suspended in the middle of a playoff series because this is what would happen.
Yeah.
Like these guys get into fights, they miss the games, and then it would suck a little bit later on. Like remember there was like I think it was Spurs Suns during the Nash era, and like a couple of the Suns guys because I think Robert Horry like hip checked Nash.
Yes.
And then a couple of the Suns guys, I guess, broke the rules by like stepping onto the
took
court.
one step.
Yeah, and then those guys got suspended and kind of swung the series. Right. But I miss when guys used to get into full-fledged fights in the middle of a playoff round. And it would swing the whole series.
I think we're determining that the Knicks are like, in terms of at least team rivalries and team beefs, like the Knicks created the most, not 90s Knicks team created the most team beefs.
Yeah, they were at the center of all of it.
Yeah,
they beefed with everybody.
They were at the center of all of it. All right, I guess I will just take Malice at the Palace then.
Okay, all right.
Can't believe that slid to number 3, actually.
Although I did have Isaiah Stewart Beef Stew versus LeBron.
So good.
Just a recent one.
That's a B-side, man.
Yeah, that's like a B-side to the Malice. But I mean, I don't know what to say about Malice at the Palace. Just everything.
Were you guys watching that game live? Because that was like a prime game, right? It was like 1-2.
I was about to turn the game off because I think like the game was done.
Right.
Like there was like 50 seconds left. But then Artest started doing his antics, and I couldn't turn it off because he started laying on the scores table, right?
Yeah.
And that's what started it all. Yeah. That's a tough one too because
Pacers could have won the title that
Pacers could have won the title. Man.
Yeah.
And instead, Artest was like on Good Morning America, like promoting his new rap label during the suspension and stuff. Yeah, True Warrior. Yeah.
The funniest thing about that is, as you mentioned, like the game was decided. That meant that it was like an 8-point lead with a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that's
no
fine.
way we could ever make that back.
Yeah,
that's 4
That's
twos.
why we don't get Malice today.
4 twos.
I can't get 4 twos in a minute and a half.
Down 8 now. You're still drawing up corner threes for the Grant Williams.
The score was like 78 to like 65.
Yeah, you probably have it exact.
Before we get back to the show, we just want to let you know that this podcast is proudly brought to you by Tangerine. Tangerine is the official bank of Hello and Welcome, the Toronto Raptors, WNBA, and the NBA.
Yeah, man, and fans are at the core of everything that Tangerine does, and they're not just fans of basketball, they're fans of fans, right? And Will, I know you know what it's like to be a fan. You're a fan who's got a nickname for every starter. You're a fan who's 5 inches from the screen when the game is on. You're a fan who'll show up to Jurassic Park in a blizzard to cheer on your team.
They call me Fan Ho Park.
No, that's what Tangerine is all about. Fans of fans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you're hearing this, there's no doubt in your commitment. And fans like you are at the heart of what makes this game special. That's why for the Raptors' 30th anniversary, Tangerine is shining a light on you, the fans, and celebrating the passion that you bring to the stands, because this is how we fan. To learn more about Tangerine's basketball partnerships, head to tangerine.ca/basketball. Now let's get back to the show.
Round 8. This is just freestyle. Anything you want to pick from rivalries in the NBA.
Okay, NBA rivalries.
Yeah.
Because I saw freestyle, I was like, Runner versus Wile E. Coyote.
Ooh.
No, I got an NBA one for you, and I think it's going to be Chris Paul versus. I can't decide if I want to go Chris Paul versus Nutsacks or Chris Paul versus anybody who touches the top of his head.
Oh, I like
He hates it, man. Like Pau Gasol, he touched the top of it. Hey, get out of here. His teammates touch the top of his head. Hey, get out of here.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he's like the number one guy at punching dudes in the nuts as well. So, Chris Paul, the way he carries himself on the court, I think leads
Chris Paul in general.
To confrontation. And it's just so funny that, like, an easy way to get under his skin is just give him a little rub on the top of the head.
I got a Chris Paul one too, man.
He's really a nut puncher, man. Yeah, I guess we just forget about that.
Yeah.
But like that's when the first moment where you went super viral or famous. But even back in the day, viral was like you end up on SportsCenter. Like like him.
He did that in college, right? Julius Hodge. Yeah. Will,
I think it's still bitter about it to this day. I think I actually heard him on Pablo.
He still talks about it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, I wouldn't forgive Chris Paul. It's fine. I wanted to bring this up earlier, but Kevin Garnett versus Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Carmelo detailed this a little bit on his podcast recently.
He did.
This was another one of a post game waiting for him at the bus.
7 p.m. in Brooklyn. The pod with obviously Carmelo and the Kid Mero. Great episode. Iman Shumpert was on. And Iman Shumpert's also kind of one of these Jeff Teague figures where he's a great storyteller. He's not a great player, but a great storyteller. But he was just in the right place in a lot of these moments. I totally forgot that he was on the Knicks during that time. Yeah. So this is obviously, they were just playing a random game. And KG loves to trash talk. I mean, the fact that KG's name hasn't come up in a rivalries list, I feel like it wasn't right. So we have to have KG on this list.
Perfect.
KG loves trash talking. I mean, this is probably his most infamous moment. The other one features Charlie V, and I definitely don't want to repeat that one because that's just not right, what he said. But like, he reportedly said, he talked about Lala who at that time was married to Carmelo. They've since split, but also at the same time, they still co-parenting. They're still doing a great job. Their son's going to Syracuse. It's mad adorable. Shouts to Kion. And he says, you know, your Lala tastes like, you know, Honey Nut Cheerios. And they start beefing. They start fighting. Melo starts seeing red. And then after the game, apparently Melo doesn't even shower. He's just there in the full uniform.
Yeah, he's just waiting
by the bus.
Waiting.
And you know, like NBA players, they gotta like they're grabbing a shower first. I mean, hopefully, but they're grabbing a shower first. Then they gotta get dressed. Then they gotta do media. Then they gotta do a little eating. Then they talk to people around. And then they slowly saunter to the bus. This is probably like 40 minutes. Usually in 40 minutes your head cools off. Carmelo was like, nah, not. And of course, the recent element that Iman Shumpert brought up was, you know, KG saying to Melo, because they never got in each other's faces, they never like physically fought, but KG yelling across like the crowds, and he's like, all this over basketball? Over basketball? And he like does a little like jumper motion.
And there's video clips of it. There's video clips of the surface. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm glad you found a Kevin Garnett one, because you're right. He should be on the list.
KG
I just
should be on
couldn't
this list.
decide.
Yeah.
I'm like, the most despicable for me was Kevin Garnett, 2009 playoffs. He's not even playing, but he's screaming in Ben Gordon's face. That's playoffs against the Bulls. I'm like, Kevin Garnett fought against everybody, and only Anthony Peeler struck back against him.
That's right.
Not Ben Gordon, not British Jerome Chang.
Oh my God.
That is his NBA comp for people who's never played Jerome in basketball before.
Hey, Ben Gordon could get hot, and so can Jerome.
Ben Gordon was a problem.
Can is the key word. Can is the key word.
All right, freestyle. I'm gonna go with Chris Paul versus Scott Foster.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I think Chris Paul has a 3-17 record in the playoffs when Scott Foster refs, and has lost 13 straight games.
Damn.
When Scott Foster has been the referee, and like Chris has come out and said that like this is personal, the league knows about it, and all of this stuff. And this is part of how like Scott Foster got his reputation, known as like the extender and all this stuff in the playoffs. So I think player versus ref, when I think about it, this got to be the top one. Chris Paul versus Scott Foster.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like Fred VanVleet versus like
Ben Taylor.
Ben Taylor. That's like the undercard at this point.
Yeah.
Definitely. Chris Paul
It's not even
versus Scott
close.
Foster. There's like
Yeah.
two marquee names in their respective professions, which are on the same court.
Yeah.
And it just stems from like Scott Foster obviously knows all the rules.
Right.
But Chris Paul's like, but I also know all the rules.
Right.
You better call it my way.
Yeah.
But he's not really a ref.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the thing with Chris Paul. He thinks he's a ref sometimes, but not really.
You guys got any other B-sides? I love B-sides, man. Any bonus ones? Come on, just give me some, man.
NSYNC versus Backstreet Boys.
Ooh, that's not a B-side.
NSYNC over here.
That's
Yeah.
That's A-side over there, man.
Drake versus Kendrick.
Oh, it's topical. Wow, I never heard of that one, Alex. Please go through the history.
Actually, we had Kuzma versus Dinwiddie was in there, but we had brought that up.
Jerome, do you have some?
I was looking it up when we were talking fights, but the Chris Childs 2-piece.
Yes, Chris
I
Childs,
actually had that on those systems too.
Yep,
that's a pretty good one. Jonte Porter versus Common Sense.
I had just Dennis Rodman versus Karl Malone, because it ended up going to WCW. Like they wrestled against. They went from the finals to wrestling against each other. Yeah, which is the whole thing.
Leather pants for Karl Malone, if I'm not mistaken. Purple leather pants.
Kobe versus Matt Barnes. Kobe versus Raja Bell.
Right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those.
Matt Barnes versus Derek Fisher.
Matt Barnes versus Derek Fisher.
Hey, that one made it into a Kanye song.
Yeah.
Like
That's
big
an
one.
off-court one for sure. Quentin Richardson and Paul Pierce had a very weird beef, and nobody could really figure out why. And I think it's because Quentin Richardson took a visit to Kansas and didn't like how it went.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know
so they
about
just
that one.
fought with each other during the NBA season for 15 years.
Yeah. Like LeBron versus Celtics, like when he was on Cleveland and then Miami.
Yeah.
That was a huge rivalry, I feel like. That was his biggest rivalry before he got into the Cavs Warriors.
Oh, for sure, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce versus the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, pretty one-sided, but
Some notable moments at least.
pretty one-sided. Yeah.
We don't give a shit about it is a very hard break from the
pretty
side.
one-sided, but so based on this, what are you guys' favorite kind of rivalry then? Because we've discussed a lot of different kinds of rivalries here.
Ultimately, I think I need everybody involved to be open and transparent about that they are in this thing. They acknowledge it.
Like, I hate you.
They talk shit to each other. They maybe act on it. Like, I think that helps, right? Even though I'm not, as Matt Barnes once said, violence is never the answer. but sometimes it is. Like, that's how I feel about rivalries.
Yeah.
And and then if for bonus points for me, if they do a little bit of making up a resolution, I do like a conclusion because I don't really want a lifelong
Right.
Yeah.
Don't take these to the grave. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is cool when they have like the sit down and we're gonna be friends now and
like
talk
Kobe and
about actually
Shaq.
what
Like
happened.
now they're cool, and rest in peace. But like, you know what I mean? Like they at least made peace, which is great.
Yeah. Another thing I like is anytime forehead to forehead contact is going down.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
KG loved doing that.
KG
stuff.
loved it.
Yeah.
He was a
Loved
90s
headbutting.
guy, so that was a carryover from the 90s. Like Jimmy Butler and Nene got into a fight in a
sure.
Bulls Wizard series. At one point, they went forehead to forehead.
Yeah.
Only
Like,
you would know this.
Yeah.
Forehead
That wasn't on the top of your list. Nene versus Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
Who did Giannis hurt? Didn't Giannis hurt someone on
He
the Bulls?
speared Mike Dunleavy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mike
yeah, that was an
Dunleavy.
awesome one. Yeah, he crushed
that
Mike
was
Dunleavy.
another
in his
one.
He
first
did it with that
playoffs.
like Chris Jericho. He's like,
Yeah,
He ran from like half court to tackle Dunleavy
Yeah,
into the
that
chairs.
was
Dunleavy
another
deserved
one.
it though. He was dirty that series.
He was down like 50 though in that game.
Oh yeah, it was over. Game was over.
The game was over.
Get my shots in.
The game was over.
He
Man.
was acting like the Nazis. What's he doing there,
exactly.
man? Yeah, no, some great rivalries, guys. This was great.
Yeah, well, I think, more than anything else, I hope the tradition continues because
Yeah.
I want this not to just end in our collective generation.
It's a dying art, man.
It is. And like, as much as I like seeing Chris Paul end up on this list a lot of times, Draymond having his own category on this list, LeBron had some rivalries in his time. Like, I want the younger generations to inherit that. And that's why I slid it as Scotty versus Evan Mobley into this, which does not need to be in here at all.
Nah, I'm buying more and more stock. We need young rivalries.
We need young rivalries. Exactly.
Yeah.
And until we get that, I mean, Isaiah Stewart maybe, but he's just not relevant enough to like.
Exactly.
I don't want to
It's not the fight deal. Didn't he punch Drew Eubanks in the tunnels before a game? Right?
You got to choose who you punch too. You can't just beef with Drew Eubanks.
Yeah.
That's not going nowhere.
That's a D side.
Yeah.
That's
Not even a B side.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, awesome,
was
man.
fun.
This was fun, man. Trey, thank you for joining us on this. And again, just want to shout out you and the rest of the No Dunks team, Tass, J. Skeets, JD, I know they're in Paris, Eshua, Jerome in the back.
That's right.
Welcoming us here to the Classic Factory in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Creating content with us, having us on your show, and coming and joining us as well. So just want to say thanks for all that.
Yeah, it's been super fun hanging out the past couple of days doing shows together, but we might want to start a rivalry.
Oh.
It could be good for all of
Maybe
us.
we should beef. Yeah, we should beef over Jerome.
Oh, that's good. You guys stole it from us.
There you go.
We already
There you
tried
go.
to beef, but we like each other too much.
Yeah, exactly right. Like when
Look at this
when Jerome
adorable
went to
face.
work with you, I was like, good luck.
Good luck with those
Good
luck.
all the success in the world, but
Nick
not too
Nurse
much
versus
success.
the Raptors.
Second most success in the podcasting industry is what I wish for you guys.
Damn, Jerome, the lighting looks great on you, man.
We haven't changed it since. we said he'll be back someday.
Damn. Where's this lighting for us? No, I'm kidding. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Trey, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And we'll have more content coming out soon. Obviously, trade deadline is just around the corner. Get ready to hear about some Bruce Brown reports, maybe. Little Chris Boucher reports, something to get us through this time. As we continue through this Raptors season, but this is really fun. We had a great time here in Atlanta, and we will now focus exclusively on the upcoming NBA trade deadline. But for myself, for Trey, for Alex Wong, this has been the Hello Welcome Podcast, presented by Betway.